Commander Zilak Voro of the Galactic Union Defense Academy adjusted his ocular implants, focusing on the bizarre spectacle before him. 6 human cadets were doing what they called push-ups in the scorching heat of training moon Epsilon, seemingly unbothered by the crushing 1.4G gravity. The atmosphere felt thick with tension, or perhaps it was just the methane mix that humans inexplicably found uncomfortable. Ridiculous creatures. Look at them, hissed Subcommander Pelix from beside him, her cranial ridges pulsing with indignation. They're showing off. Again, Voro clicked his mandibles in agreement. Insufferable species. 3 standard cycles of training, and they have broken every record we had. The Council is watching us closely now. Perhaps we should increase the difficulty of tomorrow's combat simulation? Pelix suggested, her 4 eyes blinking in rapid sequence. Something truly challenging. Voro's mouth parts curved into what passed for a smile among the Cartoxy species. Excellent suggestion, Subcommander. Prepare the Kardan Scenario. Pelix gasped, her exoskeleton clicking in surprise. Sir, no cadet team has ever survived that simulation. Precisely, Voro replied, turning away from the viewport. These humans need to learn their place in the galactic hierarchy. They come from a backwater death planet with ridiculous gravity and, somehow, think they're special. Tomorrow they will understand what real warriors face. Cadet Thomas Bailey wiped sweat from his forehead and grinned at his fellow humans. Did you see old Bugface watching us? I swear his mandibles were twitching. Cadet Jessica Parker laughed, her short blonde hair plastered to her forehead. Of course they were. We just did 200 push-ups in high gravity without stopping. Meanwhile, half the Allurian cadets passed out trying to do 20. Not their fault they evolved on a low-gravity moon, said Marcus Wong, the team's tech specialist, always the diplomatic one. Their bone density is about as substantial as cotton candy. Speaking of which, said Darius Jackson, the largest of the human cadets, anyone else notice the food portions keep getting bigger? I think they are trying to make us fat. Lena Petrova, their squad leader, shook her head. They're trying to figure out our metabolism. The Academy physicians can't understand how we process so many calories. The answer is deliciously, quipped Fiona O'Malley, the team's weapons expert, pulling a contraband chocolate bar from her pocket. Anyone want to share in the cultural experience of Earth desserts? As they laughed and shared the chocolate, none of them noticed the red alert signal blinking on the training schedule panel. None except Lena, who frowned slightly at the display. Heads up, team. They have changed tomorrow's exercise. We are now running something called the Kardan Scenario. Marcus immediately pulled out his datapad. Let me check the archives. Oh, what kind of a O is that? Thomas asked. The bad kind. The Kardan Scenario has a 0% survival rate. It's named after the Kardan conflict, where an entire Galactic Union battalion was wiped out by Draxian forces. Darius cracked his knuckles, the sound echoing in the barracks. So they're finally trying to wash us out. Or kill us, Jessica added, though she was smiling. Lena stood up. Neither is happening. We have spent 3 years proving humans belong in the Galactic Defense Force. Tomorrow we're going to show them exactly what Deathworlders can do. From his observation platform high above the simulation arena, Commander Voro felt a flutter of anticipation. Next to him, 3 council representatives had arrived unexpectedly to witness the exercise. Their timing couldn't have been more perfect. Commander, the central representative, a towering molluscan named Grand Minister Hoop, addressed him. We understand you have scheduled these human cadets for the Kardan Scenario. Indeed, Grand Minister. We believe it's time to truly test their capabilities. The Grand Minister's gelatinous form rippled with what might have been concern. You realize no team has ever completed this scenario? Most don't survive the initial contact phase. The humans have shown unusual aptitude, Voro replied cautiously. The third representative, a diminutive exilian named Diplomatic Attaché Ziv, spoke up. What Commander Voro means is that the humans have embarrassed the Academy by outperforming all other species, and he hopes to put them in their place. Voro's mandibles clacked in irritation. That is not, Spare us your denials, Ziv interrupted. The Council is well aware of the prejudice against humans, yet they continue to excel despite your best efforts to disadvantage them. The second representative, a pragmatic from the judicial caste, named Arbitrator Quan, raised a limb for silence. We are not here to debate. We are here to observe. If these humans truly possess the capabilities suggested by their performance records, the Council has special interest in their development. Voro felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. What exactly did that mean? Below them, the simulation chamber doors opened, and the 6 human cadets entered, dressed in standard-issue combat gear. The arena began to transform around them, holographic projectors creating the ruined landscape of Kardan 4, where one of the bloodiest battles in Union history had taken place. Beginning simulation, announced the AI system. Kardan Scenario commencing in 3, 2, spread out and establish a perimeter, Lena commanded as the simulation solidified around them. The landscape was bleak, a bombed-out urban environment with crumbling buildings and debris-strewn streets. The artificial sky above was filled with smoke and flashes of distant artillery. Marcus was already scanning with his equipment, getting multiple signatures approaching from the north and east. Heavy units, probably Draxian shock troops. How many? Jessica asked, checking her weapon. Too many, Marcus replied grimly. At least 40 in the first wave. Darius whistled. 40 against 6? That's almost fair. For them, Fiona added with a grin. Thomas was examining the terrain. The simulation's accurate to historical records. Kardan 4, northern district of the capital city. The Union forces were surrounded and cut off here. Lena nodded. And we won't make the same mistakes they did. Fiona, Thomas, high ground in that building. Marcus with me in the central position. Jessica, Darius, flanking positions in those ruined structures. What's the winning condition? Darius asked. Marcus checked his data. There isn't one. It's a last-stand scenario. We're supposed to fight until we are overrun. Lena's eyes narrowed. Then we changed the rules. We are not here to die gloriously. Find me a way out of the encirclement. As they moved to their positions, the first Draxian units appeared. Massive reptilian figures in powered armor, carrying weapons that could tear through concrete. Here they come, shouted Fiona from her perch. And they brought friends. Commander Voro watched in disbelief as the human cadets immediately broke from standard Union doctrine. Instead of establishing a defensive position in the central square, as the scenario demanded, they were spreading out, using the terrain in a way that made no tactical sense according to conventional wisdom. What are they doing? He muttered. Attaché Ziv leaned forward, fascinated. Something unexpected. How refreshing. The simulation progressed, and the Draxian forces moved in. According to the scenario parameters, the overwhelming numbers should have quickly surrounded and eliminated the cadets. Instead, the humans were leading the enemy forces on a complex series of ambushes and tactical retreats. They are not fighting the way we taught them, Pelix observed, sounding almost offended. No, agreed Arbitrator Quan. They're fighting like humans. On the battlefield, the human named Darius had somehow managed to capture a Draxian heavy weapon and was using it with surprising effectiveness. The female, called Jessica, was demonstrating an almost supernatural ability to appear where enemies least expected her. The team leader, Lena, was coordinating their movements with hand signals and occasional burst communications that seemed meaningless to Voro, but clearly made sense to her team. They are winning, Voro said in disbelief as the simulation passed the 1-hour mark. No cadet team had ever lasted more than 20 minutes in the Kardan scenario. Not just winning, Grand Minister Hoop observed. They are systematically dismantling the opposition. Look how they are hurting the Draxian forces. Indeed, through a series of maneuvers that seemed chaotic at first glance, but revealed themselves to be precisely coordinated, the humans had managed to force nearly half the Draxian troops into a confined urban canyon. What happens next? Attaché Ziv asked, leaning forward in anticipation. The answer came moments later when a human tech specialist, Marcus, triggered what appeared to be a controlled demolition of the buildings on either side, burying dozens of simulated enemies under tons of rubble. That wasn't in the scenario parameters, Pelix stammered. No, agreed Arbitrator Quan. They improvised. Status report. Lena called as they regrouped behind a fallen transport vehicle. Ammo at 30%. Fiona reported. Minor injuries, nothing serious, added Thomas, who had a simulated plasma burn on his arm. I count 22 hostiles remaining. Marcus said, checking his scanner. But they are regrouping. And look, they are changing tactics. The remaining Draxian forces were indeed adapting, forming smaller, more mobile units rather than the mass assault strategy they'd employed earlier. They are learning, Jessica observed. So are we, Lena replied. New plan. We're done playing defense. Darius raised an eyebrow. You want to attack? We are outnumbered nearly 4-1. Exactly why they won't expect it, Lena said with a smile. Besides, we are not just attacking. We're going after their command center. Marcus looked up from his datapad. According to historical records, the Draxian command post would be approximately half a kilometer south of our position. Then that's where we are headed, Lena decided. If we take out their leadership, the rest will fall apart. In the observation room, alarm was spreading through the Academy officials as they watched the humans embark on what appeared to be a suicide mission. They can't possibly succeed, Voro insisted. The command center is too well defended. Yet they seem rather confident. Observed Grand Minister Hoop that on the simulation floor, the humans had split into 3 teams of 2. Instead of taking a direct route to the Draxian command center, they were circling around, using the ruined city to mask their movements. Whenever they encountered enemy forces, they engaged briefly before melting away again. What are they doing now? Pelix asked in frustration. Arbitrator Quan's expression was thoughtful. Psychological warfare. They strike, disappear, then strike elsewhere. They're creating the illusion that there are more of them than there actually are. Primitive tactics, Voro scoffed. Effective tactics, corrected Attaché Ziv. Look at the Draxian response. Indeed, the simulated enemy was becoming increasingly erratic, wasting ammunition, firing at shadows, and splitting their forces to chase phantoms. Command center in sight. Thomas reported over the comm he and Fiona had positioned themselves on a partially collapsed skybridge with a clear view of their objective, a fortified building surrounded by Draxian guards. Count, Lena asked. 8 outside, unknown number inside, Fiona replied. Heavy weapons emplacement at the front entrance. Lena and Marcus were concealed in a burned-out shuttlecraft 30 meters away. Darius, Jessica, are you in position? Ready when you are, came Jessica's reply. She and Darius had worked their way through the sewer system to emerge behind the command center. Execute on my mark, Lena ordered. 3, 2, 1 mark. What followed was a perfectly synchronized assault from 3 directions. Thomas and Fiona provided covering fire from their elevated position, while Lena and Marcus advanced directly, drawing the guards' attention. Meanwhile, Darius and Jessica emerged from behind and breached the rear entrance. Inside the command center, Jessica moved with deadly efficiency, disabling the communications array while Darius secured the main room. By the time Lena and Marcus fought their way inside, Jessica was already downloading critical intelligence from the Draxian computers. Got it, she announced triumphantly. Complete battle plans, including the location of their reserve forces and supply lines. Lena quickly assessed the information. This changes everything. Marcus, can you patch into their communication network? Already on it, he replied, fingers flying over his datapad. We can broadcast directly to all Draxian units. A slow smile spread across Lena's face. Perfect. Let's offer them a chance to surrender. In the observation room, stunned silence had fallen over the assembled officials and representatives. They can't do that, Pelix finally sputtered. The simulation doesn't allow for enemy surrender. Apparently it does, Arbitrator Quan replied dryly. The parameters must be more flexible than you realized. On the simulation floor, the impossible was happening. The human cadets had hacked into the Draxian communication system and were broadcasting a surrender demand, backed by the threat of revealing the position of all Draxian forces to these simulated Union reinforcements that were supposedly en route. This is completely unauthorized, Voro protested. The Kardan Scenario is about fighting to the last stand against impossible odds. Not whatever this is. Innovation, supplied Grand Minister Hoop. Adaptability, refusal to accept predetermined outcomes. All qualities the Council finds most interesting. One by one, the simulated Draxian units were standing down, laying their weapons on the ground. The 6 human cadets had somehow managed to turn a hopeless last stand into a decisive victory. Simulation complete, announced the AI system. Scenario resolved. Total enemy, surrender. Casualty rate, 0%. Mission success rate, 100%. New record established. Commander Voro's mandibles hung slack with disbelief. I believe we have seen enough, Grand Minister Hoop declared, turning to his fellow representatives. The Council will want to know about this immediately. Know what exactly? Voro asked nervously. Attaché Ziv fixed him with all 4 of her eyes. That we have finally found the solution to the Kryvax problem. Voro's blood ran cold. The Kryvax were the most feared warrior species in the known galaxy, currently pushing at the borders of Union space. No conventional military force had been able to stand against them. You can't be serious, he protested. These are just cadets. These cadets just accomplished what no veteran Union force has ever managed, Arbitrator Quan pointed out. They turned certain defeat into victory through unconventional thinking and sheer audacity. The kind of thinking we will need against the Kryvax, added Grand Minister Hoop. Commander, your bias against humans has been noted. So has their exceptional performance despite your efforts to sabotage them. Effective immediately, these cadets are being reassigned to Special Operations Division under direct Council authority. As the representatives departed, Voro stared at the simulation chamber where the human cadets were celebrating their victory, completely unaware that they had just been drafted into the most dangerous conflict the galaxy had seen in 10,000 years. Subcommander Pelix moved to stand beside him. What do we do now, Commander? Voro's mandibles clicked softly. We prepare them as best we can, Pelix. Because if what the Council intends is what I think it is, those 6 humans may be all that stands between the Union and annihilation. 3 days after the Kardan simulation, Lena Petrova and her team found themselves aboard the Union flagship Resolute Virtue, being escorted through gleaming corridors by a nervous-looking Farian lieutenant. The slender, blue-skinned alien kept glancing at the humans with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. So, are you going to tell us why we have been pulled from the Academy, Lieutenant asked? Lena asked, breaking the awkward silence. The Farian's gill slits fluttered anxiously. The Admiral will explain everything, Cadet Petrova. It's not my place. Admiral? As an Admiral Zorak, Marcus whispered, eyes widening. The Supreme Commander of Union Forces? Lieutenant Taz merely quickened his pace, leading them to an imposing set of doors marked with the Union insignia. They hissed open to reveal a large briefing room where several high-ranking officers from various species were gathered around a holographic display. At the center stood a formidable figure, Admiral Zorak, a veteran Teridian warrior whose scarred carapace and missing limb, replaced with a sophisticated prosthetic, spoke of countless battles. Ah, our human cadets arrive, the Admiral announced, his deep voice reverberating through the room. Please join us. We were just discussing your rather unorthodox performance in the Kardan Scenario. The team exchanged glances as they entered. The holographic display showed a detailed recording of their simulation, currently paused at the moment Jessica had hacked the Draxian command systems. Sir, Lena began, standing at attention. On behalf of my team, I would like to save the formalities, Cadet. Admiral Zorak interrupted, waving a clawed appendage dismissively. This isn't a disciplinary hearing. Quite the opposite, in fact. A tall, elegantly robed molluscan stepped forward. I am Grand Minister Hoop of the Galactic Council. We observed your performance with great interest. Darius leaned slightly toward Thomas. That's putting it mildly, he murmured. We broke their precious simulation. Admiral Zorak's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Indeed you did, Cadet Jackson. You turn a no-win scenario into a victory through methods that, frankly, no Union tactician would have considered viable. You didn't follow protocol, added a stern-looking Kartoxy officer whom the cadets recognized as Fleet Commander Jarvik. You abandoned established doctrine. You improvised with available resources. You hacked enemy communications. In short, you broke every rule in the tactical handbook. The humans tensed, expecting a reprimand. And thank the first stars that you did, concluded Admiral Zorak, surprising them all. Because conventional thinking is getting us slaughtered. The holographic display shifted to show a star map with a red zone expanding across one quadrant of Union space. This is the current extent of Kryvak's incursion into our territory. In the past 6 standard months, they have conquered 17 Union worlds and destroyed our forces in 23 engagements. No Union fleet has managed to even slow their advance. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. So, what do we have to do with this? Fiona finally asked, voicing the question on all their minds. Diplomatic attaché Ziv, who had been quietly observing from a corner, stepped into the light. Everything, Cadet O'Malley. Your species comes from a high-gravity world with extreme climate variations, predatory fauna, and natural disasters that would exterminate most sentient life. Yet you not only survived, but thrived. Humans think differently because they evolved under conditions that demanded adaptability and unconventional solutions. The Kryvaks are currently besieging the Tolari colony on Nexus 7. Admiral Zorak continued, zooming the display to show a fortified planet. Our conventional forces have failed to break through their blockade. The colony has less than 1 standard week of supplies remaining. Lena studied the display intently. Their formation is impressive. Triple-layered defense grid, overlapping fields of fire, automated response satellites. Breaking that would require a massive fleet, which we don't have to spare, Fleet Commander Jarvik added grimly. And a direct assault would result in unacceptable casualties. Admiral Zorak fixed his compound eyes on the human team. So we are not sending a fleet. We're sending you. The silence that followed was deafening. Us. Jessica finally sputtered. 6 cadets against an entire Kryvak's armada? With all due respect, sir, that's suicide. Perhaps, the Admiral acknowledged. Or perhaps it's our only chance. The Kryvaks expect conventional tactics. They prepare for large-scale assaults. 6 individuals in a stealth craft might penetrate their defenses where a fleet would fail. What exactly would be our objective? Marcus asked, his analytical mind already working on the problem. Grand Minister Hoop gestured, and the hologram shifted to display a massive vessel at the heart of the Kryvaks formation. This is the Kryvaks command ship, the Annihilator. Our intelligence suggests that like most hierarchical predator species, the Kryvaks' military structure is highly centralized. Their fleet responds to direct commands from this vessel. So we disable it, and their coordination falls apart, Lena concluded. Precisely, confirmed Admiral Zorak. A small team might infiltrate their command structure and create enough chaos to allow our relief fleet to break through. Thomas let out a low whistle. No pressure, then, just the fate of an entire colony resting on 6 rookie humans. Not rookies, corrected diplomatic attaché Ziv. Deathworlders. There's a difference. 2 days later, aboard the stealth vessel Shadow Whisper, Lena and her team were making final preparations. The ship, a sleek, black craft designed to evade detection, was the most advanced vessel any of them had ever seen. Conventional sensors won't detect us, explained the ship's designer, a Vexillian engineer named Trill, as he guided them through the systems. The hull absorbs scan waves rather than reflecting them. As long as you maintain minimal power output, you'll be virtually invisible. Marcus was examining the navigation console with undisguised admiration. This technology is decades ahead of anything they taught us at the Academy. The Union keeps its best toys hidden, Trill replied with a shrug of his upper appendages. When the Council decides to deploy experimental tech, the situation is usually desperate. Comforting, Jessica remarked dryly. In the weapons bay, Fiona was inspecting their equipment with Darius. These are definitely not standard issue, she said, hefting a compact energy rifle. Is this a vortex disruptor? These aren't even supposed to exist yet. Prototype, confirmed the Union quartermaster, a gruff pragmatic named Sergeant Belt, designed specifically to target Kryvak's neural systems. One shot will overload their synaptic pathways. Theoretically, Darius raised an eyebrow. We haven't exactly had the opportunity to test them extensively, Belt admitted. Kryvaks don't leave survivors, much less prisoners, for weapons testing. In the command center, Thomas was reviewing the latest intelligence with Admiral Zorak and Fleet Commander Jarvik. The relief fleet will position themselves here, Jarvik explained, indicating a point just outside the Kryvak sensor range. Once you disable the command ship, they will move in immediately. Timing is critical. What about the colonists? Thomas asked. Admiral Zorak's expression darkened. Latest communication indicates they have been forced to retreat to the central habitation dome. Kryvak's ground forces have taken the outer districts. Then we will have to move quickly, Lena said as she joined them, having completed her inspection of the medical bay. How long until we launch? 6 hours, the Admiral replied. I won't insult your intelligence with platitudes about the risks. This mission has a low probability of success, but a non-zero probability, Lena countered. And sometimes that's all we need. The Shadow Whisper slipped through space like a phantom, its systems running at minimal power as it approached the Kryvak's blockade. From the pilot's seat, Lena guided the vessel with delicate precision, navigating through the complex pattern of patrol ships and automated defense platforms. Proximity alert, Marcus whispered, though there was no reason to keep his voice down. Kryvak's destroyer passing within 500 meters. Hold position, Lena ordered, freezing the ship in place as the massive Kryvak's vessel lumbered past, its hull bristling with weapons. For a tense moment, it seemed as though they'd been detected as the destroyer slowed. Then it resumed course, continuing its patrol pattern. That was too close, Thomas muttered from the tactical station. It's about to get closer, Jessica replied, pointing to the sensor display. We have reached the inner defense perimeter. Automated scanning drones everywhere. Lena studied the pattern of the drone movements. There's a gap in their coverage. It's small, but if we time it right, what if we don't time it right? Darius asked. Then we get to test how good our shields really are. Fiona answered with a grim smile. Lena accelerated the ship through the narrow window between drone patrols, the vessel briefly visible as its engines flared. For a heart-stopping moment, one of the drones seemed to turn toward them, but then continued on its programmed path. We are through, Lena announced, relief evident in her voice. Beginning approach to the Annihilator. The Kryvak's command ship loomed before them, a massive construct of dark metal and pulsing energy fields. Up close, it was even more intimidating than in the holographic briefings. A vessel designed not just for war, but for terror, its hull adorned with trophies from conquered worlds. I'm detecting a potential entry point, Marcus reported. Maintenance access near the aft section. The energy field is weaker there. Likely a waste disposal system, added Jessica, who had studied Kryvak's ship designs during their rush briefing. Even conquerors have to take out the trash. Charming, Thomas remarked. We are infiltrating through their garbage chute. Better than the front door, Darius pointed out. Lena guided the Shadow Whisper into position, deploying magnetic grapples. Prepare for zero-G transition. Boarding team, suit up. Inside the Annihilator, the humans moved like shadows through dimly lit corridors. The Kryvaks, a reptilian species evolved from apex predators, preferred low-light conditions that matched their homeworld. This gave the humans, with their tactical visors, a slight advantage. Central Command should be 6 levels up, Marcus whispered, consulting the ship's schematic they'd been provided. But security will be heaviest there. What about their communication hub? Lena asked. If we can't take out command directly, disrupting their ability to coordinate would be the next best thing. Marcus nodded. 2 levels up. Less security, but still effective. Then that's our target, Lena decided. Fiona, Thomas, you will plant the disruptor charges. Jessica, Darius, you are on security. Marcus and I will handle the systems. They moved through the ship with practiced efficiency, avoiding Kryvax patrols when possible and silently neutralizing them when not. The vortex disruptors proved devastatingly effective. The Kryvax warriors collapsed without a sound when hit, their neural systems overloaded. These things are incredible, Fiona commented as they secured another intersection. Why aren't they standard issue? Probably because they cost more than a small warship each, Thomas guessed, checking the charge on his weapon. And they seem to be single-use. Mine's already showing power fluctuations. They reached the communication hub to find it more heavily guarded than intelligence had suggested. 4 Kryvax warriors stood at the entrance, each nearly 2.5 meters tall, their scaled bodies covered in organic armor. We need a distraction, Lena whispered as they observed from a concealed position. Jessica grinned. Leave it to me. She pulled a small device from her pack, a sonic emitter tuned to Kryvax auditory frequencies. Cover your ears. The device sent 3 Kryvax warriors rushing toward the source of the painful sound, leaving only one guarding the door. Darius made quick work of the remaining guard, and the team slipped inside the communication hub. Work fast, Lena ordered as Marcus plugged into the Kryvax systems. We have got maybe 5 minutes before they realize something's wrong. Marcus's fingers flew over his datapad. Their security is complex but predictable. Trying to isolate the command channels now. Fiona and Thomas were planting disruptor charges at key points around the hub. Charges set, Thomas reported. Remote detonation ready. I'm in, Marcus announced triumphantly. I can access their battle coordination network. What do you want me to do? Lena thought quickly. Can you send conflicting orders to different sections of their fleet? Better than that, Marcus replied, a slow smile spreading across his face. I can make them think they are under attack from each other. On the bridge of the Resolute Virtue, Admiral Zorak and Fleet Commander Jarvik watched the tactical display with growing tension. The deadline for the human team had passed 5 minutes ago, with no sign of disruption in the Kryvax blockade. We should prepare alternative measures, Jarvik suggested grimly. The humans may have failed. Give them more time, the Admiral insisted. The colonists don't have more time, Jarvik countered. Every moment we wait. He was interrupted by a sudden flurry of activity on the tactical display. The Kryvax ships were breaking formation, turning their weapons on each other. What in the name of the first stars? Jarvik exclaimed. Admiral Zorak's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. The humans. They have done it. He turned to his communications officer. Signal the fleet. Begin the assault. Aboard the Annihilator, chaos reigned. Alarms blared as confused Kryvax warriors rushed to respond to what they believed was a massive mutiny within their own ranks. In the communication hub, the human team worked frantically to complete their mission. Fleets moving in, Jessica reported, monitoring Union communications. We have got maybe 10 minutes to get out of here before this place becomes a war zone. Suddenly, the door to the hub burst open, and a massive Kryvax warrior entered. Larger than any they'd seen before, with elaborate markings that designated high rank. Ship commander, Marcus gasped. Before anyone could react, the Kryvax officer fired a barrage that sent everyone diving for cover. Darius rolled to his feet and fired his disruptor, but the commander wore specialized armor that absorbed the blast. Vortex weapons, the Kryvax snarled in heavily accented Union standard. So the rumors were true. The Union grows desperate. You have no idea, Lena replied, emerging from behind a console. She had worked her way around while the commander was focused on Darius. The Kryvax turned to face her, but not before she threw a small object at his feet. Not a weapon, but the sonic emitter Jessica had used earlier, now modified to its highest setting. The device unleashed a pulse that penetrated even the commander's specialized armor, sending him crashing to his knees. Now, Lena shouted. All 5 of her teammates fired their disruptors simultaneously. Combined energy was enough to overwhelm even the commander's defenses, and he collapsed. We need to move, Lena ordered, already heading for the door. Trigger the charges remotely once we are clear. They fought their way back to their entry point, the ship now in complete disarray around them. Kryvak's warriors were too busy responding to phantom attacks and contradictory orders to mount an organized response to the intruders. The relief fleet is engaged, Marcus reported as they reached the Shadow Whisper. They have broken through the outer defenses. Once aboard, Lena wasted no time, powering up engines even as the last team member sealed the airlock. Detonating charges now, Thomas announced, activating the remote trigger. Throughout the Annihilator, carefully placed disruptor charges exploded, not with conventional force, but with cascading energy pulses that overloaded the ship's neural link systems. The massive vessel suddenly went dark, its weapons and engines failing simultaneously. "We have done it," Jessica breathed as they pulled away from the crippled command ship. The blockade is falling apart. On the tactical display, they could see Union vessels engaging the confused Kryvak ships, which were unable to coordinate their defense without central command. Several were already retreating, while others fought individually, lacking their usual devastating synchronization. "Don't celebrate yet," Lena cautioned. "We still need to get clear of the battle zone." As if in response to her words, a stray shot from a Kryvak's destroyer clipped their port side, sending the Shadow Whisper spinning. "Stabilizers hit," Marcus called out. "Navigations compromised." "Rerouting power," Thomas responded, his hands dancing across the controls. "We have got partial control, but not enough to avoid the battle." Lena made a quick decision. "Set course for Nexus 7. If we can't escape the battle, we will fly through it. Head for the colony." "That's insane," Fiona objected, though she was already adjusting weapon systems. "Of course it is," Darius agreed. "That's why it will work." The Shadow Whisper plunged into the heart of the battle, its stealth systems compromised but its speed still intact. Lena piloted with remarkable skill, weaving between much larger vessels, using the chaos of combat as cover. Union vessels are providing covering fire, Jessica reported with surprise. "They see us." Indeed, several Union ships had adjusted their positions to create a corridor for the damaged stealth craft, laying down suppressive fire against any Kryvak's vessel that turned toward them. "Admiral Zorak," Lena realized. "He's clearing a path." They shot through the final line of Kryvak's ships, the planet Nexus 7 now looming large before them. The colony's defense systems, recognizing a Union identification signal, allowed them through the planetary shields just as the last of their engine power gave out. The Shadow Whisper skidded to a landing outside the central habitation dome, where the beleaguered colonists had made their last stand. As the humans emerged from their damaged vessel, they were met not with the expected fear or confusion, but with cheers and celebration. Word their mission had somehow reached the colony. To these people, who had been facing certain death just hours before, the 6 humans were nothing short of miraculous. "I don't understand," Thomas said as children of various species rushed forward to touch them, as if for luck. "How do they know who we are?" His question was answered when a tall, Teridian officer approached, bearing the insignia of the Colonial Defense Force. "Cadet Petrova," he greeted Lena formally. "Admiral Zorak informed us of your approach. The relief ships have begun landing on the Eastern Plateau. Medical supplies and food are already being distributed." "The Kryvak ground forces?" Lena asked, retreating to their remaining ships. The officer replied with satisfaction. Without coordination from their command vessel, their assault collapsed. "You have saved over 300,000 lives today." As the implications of what they had accomplished began to sink in, a new sound caught their attention. The distinctive engine roar of an approaching Union diplomatic vessel. It landed nearby, and from it emerged Grand Minister Hoop, along with several council representatives. "Cadets," the Grand Minister addressed them, or rather, I should say lieutenants. "The council has approved battlefield commissions for all of you. Your actions today will be recorded in Union history." "Lieutenants," Marcus repeated in disbelief. "But we haven't even finished our training." "I believe you just did," replied diplomatic attaché Ziv, who had appeared beside the Grand Minister. "The Academy teaches theory. You have demonstrated mastery of practice. What happens now?" Jessica asked. Now, said Grand Minister Hoop, we would like to discuss the formation of a new division within the Union forces. A division comprised primarily of humans and other Deathworlder species. A division that will specifically train in unconventional tactics. You want us to train others to do what we did. Darius clarified. Not just train, Attaché Ziv corrected. Lead. The Kryvax have been dealt a significant blow today, but they will regroup. When they do, the Union will need more teams capable of thinking beyond our established doctrines. Lena looked at her team, silently gauging their reactions. After a moment, she turned back to the council representatives. We will need full authority to develop our own training protocols. The Academy methods won't work for what you are proposing. Agreed, the Grand Minister said without hesitation. And Commander Voro, Lena added, what happens to him? A slight ripple passed through the Grand Minister's gelatinous form, the molluscan equivalent of a smile. I believe Commander Voro is about to receive a very educational assignment as liaison to the new Deathworlder division. His perspective on humans could benefit from the experience. Thomas couldn't suppress a laugh. He's going to report to us? That should be interesting. That's one word for it. Fiona agreed with a grin. As the sun began to set over Nexus 7, casting long shadows across the landscape, Lena looked up to see Union ships landing across the horizon, bringing supplies and reinforcements. Already, the colony was beginning to recover, its people emerging from shelters with renewed hope. Not bad for a training exercise gone wrong, Jessica remarked, standing beside her. Who said anything went wrong? Lena replied, I'd say things worked out exactly as they should have. In orbit above them, the remains of the Kryvax blockade were being systematically dismantled by Union forces. The Annihilator, once the pride of the Kryvax fleet, now drifted powerless, its systems paralyzed by 6 humans who had refused to accept the limitations others had placed upon them. And somewhere in the vast depths of space, news of this defeat was reaching the Kryvax Dominion. The message was clear. The humans had arrived on the galactic stage, and the rules of warfare would never be the same again. Commander Voro stood rigidly in the newly established headquarters of what was being called Special Operations Division Alpha, watching his human instructors demonstrated combat techniques to a mixed group of recruits from various Deathworlder species. Quite the change from Academy protocols, wouldn't you say, Commander? Subcommander Pelix observed, having been assigned to join him in this new position, that Voro's mandibles clicked in reluctant acknowledgement. Indeed, they're teaching tactics that directly contradict everything in our manual. And yet, Pelix pointed out, those tactics saved Nexus 7 when our conventional approach failed. Before Voro could respond, Lieutenant Petrova approached, now wearing the insignia of a newly formed division. Commander, Subcommander, she greeted them formally. I trust you are finding your new assignment educational. Voro straightened his posture. It is certainly different, Lieutenant. Different is what saved 300,000 lives, Lena reminded him. Different is why the Kryvax advance has been halted for the first time in this conflict. And different is what's going to win this war. She handed him a datapad. These are the new training parameters the Council has approved. We will be implementing them immediately. Your input, as an experienced Academy instructor, would be valuable, provided you can approach the task with an open mind. Voro took the pad, scanning the radical departures from traditional Union doctrine with a mixture of professional horror and reluctant fascination. These protocols violate every established principle of Union tactical theory. Exactly, Lena agreed with a smile. That's why they will work. As she walked away to rejoin her team, who were now leading the first official training session of what would soon become the most elite fighting force in the Union, Voro found himself reevaluating everything he thought he knew about warfare, about humans, and about the rigid hierarchies he had spent his career defending. You know, Pelix said quietly beside him, I'm beginning to think that perhaps we have been the ones with limited vision all along. Voro watched as Lieutenants Bailey and Wong demonstrated to a group of astonished recruits how to repurpose standard equipment for entirely unintended applications, turning communication devices into weapons, medical supplies into explosives, in navigation tools and hacking interfaces. The Union has existed for 12,000 years, Voro replied, his voice thoughtful. In all that time, we have developed systems and protocols that worked against every threat we encountered. Until the Kryvax, Pelix noted. Until the Kryvax, Voro agreed. And then 6 humans from a backwater death planet showed us that everything we thought we knew was just one way of thinking. Across the training floor, Lieutenant Jackson was organizing a simulation that involved deliberate chaotic patterns, the opposite of the precise, choreographed maneuvers taught at the academy. Nearby, Lieutenant Parker was teaching infiltration techniques that seemed to involve an alarming amount of improvisation. Perhaps, Voro admitted, more to himself than to Pelix. There is something to learn here after all. In the center of it all stood Lieutenant Petrova, coordinating the various training groups with natural authority. She caught Voro's eye across the room and gave him a nod of acknowledgement. Not the subordinate acknowledgement of a cadet to a commander, but the professional respect of one warrior to another. And despite himself, Commander Voro found that he was nodding back.